The Monster Below by Greenback, read by Deathlight, Chapter 28, Come Great Things. What is it like to have a dream die? I thought I'd be accompanied by tears and the all-consuming drive to destroy everyone and everything in relation to what I have lost. But now I know better. Instead of rage and anger, there's numbness. It's as if a part of my soul was ripped away, leaving a great emptiness that can never be filled. It's like you'll never feel happiness ever again. That emptiness stays with me as the doctors release me from the tube. I'm operating on automatic as I drive myself off. I'm quiet as the doctors explain how I need to take it easy for a while, and to keep taking pain medications so that my muscles can rest and recover. I need to be extremely careful not to hurt my head, considering how a horn was just pulled away from my brain. Bumping or smashing my skull could have disastrous consequences. I nod and obediently take the pain pills he gives me. Because I'm still recovering from the anesthesia, the staff put me into a wheelchair and pushed me outside into Luna's carriage. She's there too, and suggests that I use the next 2 or 3 days to recover and prepare for my journey to Canterlot. Her tact is appreciated, but we both know she's telling me to prepare for my prison stay. The ride to my old apartment building is uneventful. My landlord is unnerved to see me escorted inside by 2 of Luna's unicorn guards, who assures him I'll be only here for a few days. We then head up to my apartment, where I'm told to stay there until the trip to Canterlot. Should I need any food or drink, a courier will be dispatched to pick up supplies. Then the 2 take up positions inside the hall and shut the door, leaving me to myself once again. Any other pony would have sat and wept, overwhelmed by everything that had happened within the past 24 hours. But not me. I didn't feel anything as I take a long, hot shower, then collapse in bed, letting the remnants of the anesthesia push me into the black depths of sleep. Perhaps there I can find rest and respite from a future that has never been more empty. When I awake, I am disappointed to find that melancholy still has me in its grip. A glance at the clock reveals that it's late in the morning. Not even 10 hours of sleep can heal what's been taken from me. Perhaps I'll feel different when I'm on my way to Canterlot. But for now, I'm in limbo, unable to go back to my old life, yet not able to go on to what's next. I know what's coming. I know little of Equestria's prisons and dungeons. While they're not the squalid, barbaric places that they were before the coming of the princesses, there will be loss of freedom, bars, locks, and orange jumpsuits. But while I'm spared from spending decades inside, I feel no relief. 2 years is a long time. I crawl from bed and head to the kitchen. I should be making the most of the time I have left, but getting drunk would only make things worse in the long run. No books would bring me pleasure or happiness, and to watch television will only expose me to the pleasures and wonders that I'll be unable to experience. None of those will make me happy. Nothing can. Well, that's not entirely true. I want to see Beatbreaker again. If anyone can lift my spirits, it's her. Taking a piece of paper and a quill, I write her a letter. Or rather, I try to, because I'm not sure what to put down. All my experience in doing speeches and query letters seem like a joke as I ponder what to say. Should I try something elegant, heartfelt, poetic? None of those feel right, not after what we've gone through. Then again, perhaps being honest would be the best. Putting the quill to the paper, I write that I'd like to see her again before going to Canterlot. Sealing the letter inside an envelope, I attach a stamp that will ensure 1-day delivery and send it down the mail chute. Beatbreaker will probably get it by afternoon and reply by sundown. Even if the answer is no, she has to reply. She just has to. The day rolls on. I watch the view beyond the window while keeping an ear turned towards the door. I know that there's no way Beatbreaker would get the letter and reply back within a few hours. But that letter is the only thing that gives me hope, and I don't want to let it go. I eventually tire of watching the city and decide I should read something to help the hours pass. Heading towards my small library in the sitting room, I spot a newspaper near the door. It's the morning edition, probably slipped in by the guards after they read it over. Unfolding the paper, I find the cover page plastered with giant photos of devastation throughout Manhattan, the biggest focusing on the Metacom Plaza. Reading the accompanying story, I find that it's been a week since the fight, and the final estimate of the devastation had finally been tallied. 5 skyscrapers have been destroyed, and 200 ponies have died, with a further 500 injured, with over 100 missing their horns. By all accounts, it is one of the worst tragedies in Manhattan's history. It is to be expected that death and destruction getting top billing. But there's a sizable article about how Princess Luna was seen leaving the Manhattan prison with me, while Mavis was reportedly taken to the train station, and is en route to locations unknown. Picture after picture shows me at my impromptu press conference, as well as me leaving the Metacom Tower via back entrance. The article doesn't hold back on describing how Mangus and I are responsible for the damage. Yet I'm surprised in how it doesn't take a firm stance on my role in the catastrophe. It talks about reports that I saved ponies, but states that I was probably acting for my own benefit. There are other minor reports about the destruction. The library has lost a quarter of its collection due to the destroyed wing, and the head librarian still lingers in the hospital. The staff is unsure if she will survive her injuries. Metacom stocks predictably has nosedived, and nobody's sure if the corporation is going to recover. The guards of Dedition had gone nuts about how all this wouldn't have happened if Metacom hadn't gone ahead with the wings. Turning the page, I'm not surprised to find numerous editorials and letters reflecting the Guardian's point of view. Most blast me, but there's a fair number dedicated to Maze as well. Some poets suggest that two are turned into statues and put on display for all to see as both a punishment and a warning to others not to follow our footsteps. The world, it seems, won't forgive this anytime soon, if it ever will. Evening comes, and I still keep an ear turned to the door, waiting for something to slip through the mail slots. But the hours pass, and nothing comes through. My hope begins to dim. Why hasn't Beatbreaker written back? When I awake the following morning, I lay in bed for a long time, hoping that when I finally go to the door, there will be a letter waiting for me. And sure enough, there is one. I feel a burst of happiness as I grab the letter and tear it open, only for my joy to come crashing down around me. The letter isn't from Beatbreaker, it's from Luna, informing me that I'll be heading to Camelot tomorrow morning at 6 AM sharp, and that I should use the day to put all my affairs in order. I dropped the letter, struggling to hold back the sobs threatening to rise up. For a few glorious seconds, I let myself feel hope, and now it's crushing down around me, and it hurts, but getting angry, or going on a tirade and demolishing my apartment won't do any good. Perhaps Beatbreaker did get my letter and wrote back, but her reply hasn't reached my apartment yet. Yes, that has to be it. I spend the next few hours tidying up my apartment and putting my belongings in boxes for storage. Now that I know where to send them or who would take them. Metacomp, my former co-workers at the grocery store? Not likely. I suppose I can always mail them to my parents and ask them to look over my stuff. There's not much else to manage, my bank account is all that's left. But I'll let that be. By the time I get out of Camelot Dungeons, there'll be quite a lot of extra money accumulated from the interest. Probably enough to help me get off to a good start in my new life. But it's not gonna feel right having it all to myself. Checking yesterday's paper, I find several listings for charities that have sprung up to help those affected by the disaster. Taking my checkbook, I write out a check to the biggest one, using half of my money in my account. It won't undo all the damage that Megas and I had caused, but hopefully it'll be of some help to somebody. Putting the check inside an envelope, I sent it down the mail tube. Packing up my checkbook, I put my apartment keys on the table, figuring that I'll turn them in to the landlord tomorrow. And with that, I have the rest of the afternoon to myself. By tomorrow evening, I'll be inside my new home in the Candlelight Dungeons. But how would you spend your last day of freedom? I didn't want to go through the park or go shopping, or do any number of ordinary things. The joyless future draws closer, and the only thing that I want is the one that can brighten it. I want Beatbreaker. As noon comes and goes, I stay in the sitting room, waiting for the letter that may or may not come. But as mid-afternoon comes around, a fear begins to rise. There's always the chance that Beatbreaker never got my message, but the Manhattan postal system is surprisingly effective, and not likely to misplace a simple letter. The police may have intercepted it, but how threatening would a simple letter be? Since I haven't gotten a reply back, there are only two logical explanations. She hasn't sent out a reply yet, or she's ignoring me. Heart pounding, I try to dismiss the latter, but she heard me say that I'd used her. If Luna showed her my memories, then she saw even more of that. There's only one individual in the entire city I want to be with, and I didn't know if she wanted to be anywhere near me. My mood remains bleak well into the afternoon, but as the skies begin to darken, there's a knock at the door. I'm afraid to answer it, but I let myself hope that it's a special delivery. Hope surged through me. I opened the door, only to slump. The mailman wasn't standing before me, letter in hand. It's my parents. I try to hide my disappointment, but they've already seen it. For a long moment, the three of us stand where we are, unsure what to do or what to say. Mom finally says, "May we come in?" It'd be rude to turn them away, so I step aside, closing the door behind them as they enter. My mom seems unsure of what to say. "How are you feeling?" I shrug. She gets closer to me. "I know you're nervous, sweetie, but I'm sure it won't be that bad. After all, Candlelight is the home of the princesses. They can't possibly be cruel to anyone who stays there." Dad nudges her. "We weren't going to talk about that." Oh. Not wanting to beat around the bush, I take Luna's note. I'm going to be leaving tomorrow, 6 a.m. Mom's shocked. She clearly thought I was going to be getting another day, maybe two. Dad flinches as well, and why shouldn't he? After all, his son is heading to prison. How can any parent prepare themselves for such an event? I know it's hard for you, Silverspeak, but I'm sure it won't be as bad as you think. I'm going to prison, Dad. How can it not be bad? Dad struggles to find an answer. You could have gone there for life. He's right, but I'm not in the mood to hear it. Besides, you won't be alone in there. We'll visit you when we can, and when you get out, it'll all be behind you. You'll have a clean start. In a world that still hates me, I expected an argument, but got none. Instead, Dad smiles, reaches into his saddlebag. He pulls out a copy of today's paper and hands it to me. I'm not interested in reading the latest report about how much I suck, but I humor Dad and take a look. But to my surprise, the front page had no editorials about how the city was ruined, about the damage, or anything of the sort. Instead, the headline shouted about Princess Luna's official proclamation to the city and all of Equestria. Puzzled, I read the article. It seems Princess Luna held a press conference yesterday at City Hall, where she issued several decrees. Chief among them was that the Royal Sisters have pledged all the aid and supplies needed to rebuild Manhattan. But she also said that it's the will of the Royal Sisters that research on Metacom's limbs are allowed to continue. For the potential to do good far outweighs the possibility of doing evil, and the chance to allow ponies to walk and fly again is too great to give up. She talks about how there are ponies who want to abuse the implants as Mangus did, but that is why they should only be given to restore what is lost, not to gain abilities that were never there to begin with. If there is any lesson to be learned from all this, Luna said, is that ambition can be dangerous if not used correctly, and that Mangus and I are prime examples of it going astray. I read on and my heart skips a beat. Luna, she said that due to the memory spell she performed, both she and Celestia learned that while I performed illegal acts, I have no intention of trying to become an all-powerful god, or anything of the sort. She also confirms that I worked to save ponies during Mangus' attack on the city. He was the aggressor, I was not. This has to be a dream. If Princess Luna herself says that I'm not the bad guy, well, then who's gonna argue against that? No one understood what Dad was smiling about. The paper is almost torn apart as I rush to the editorial section. Compared to the fiery rhetoric of the days past, the tone about me is not subdued. Editors and ordinary citizens who once called me a threat to all of Equestria itself now says that perhaps it's ponies like Mangus we should be afraid of rather than me. I couldn't believe it. The public for once seems to be displaying common sense. I looked at my parents. They were beaming, and why wouldn't they? To them, this is finally proof that things are finally turning around, and their son's no longer the scapegoat and Equestria's greatest social upheaval in recent memory. For them, this nightmare is coming to an end. They can smile because they have no idea how little this means to me. Oh yes, I'm surprised that public opinion had turned in my favor, and the Royal Sisters have effectively said, hey, he's not the bad guy here. But in the long run, that'll be little comforts. Despite my attempts at keeping a straight face, my parents have the ability to realize their child is hiding something. What's wrong? Do I tell them the truth? That I don't care about public opinion or being cleared of wrongdoing anymore? That there's one thing in the world that I really want? It's Beebreaker. I say. I sent her a letter about how I wanted to see her before I leave, but she hasn't replied. My parents flinch, they try to disguise it, but even uneducated simpleton could see that they were hiding something. What is it? Dad opens the paper to a small article about halfway through. Confused, I look it over, seeing an update on Metacomp, including a note that the stocks are starting to inch back up. What does that have to do with? That indicates for me to keep reading. I did so, coming across a small paragraph near the article's end. It says that Beebreaker, the inventor of Metacomp's legs and wings, hasn't been seen since the battle on Manhattan Bridge. When asked about her, the Metacomp CEO reveals that she's heading to another Metacomp branch, but didn't say where, and asked for everyone to respect her privacy. We tried to find her, but by the time we found the hospital she was staying in, she had already been discharged. She bites down on her lower lip. I'm so sorry, Silverspeak. I can barely hear her as the paper falls from my hooves, but there are no tears or anguished sobs. I thought there would be, but there's nothing, only emptiness. The only thing I wanted more than anything in this world is gone. I half sat, half fell onto the sofa. My parents looked at each other, unsure what to do. They've never seen their son so defeated, so empty of life and vitality. Eventually, Dad comes over and sits beside me. Silverspeak, I'm sorry about Beebreaker, but, well, times change, ponies change. I turn away. I didn't want to listen to him. I didn't want his lectures. Dad hesitates, then tries again. Silver Speak, I know you're not a fan of my stories, but do you remember what I told you when you left home? About how we're all seeds meant to become trees? I said nothing. Well, I didn't tell you what else my father told me. That the seed's journey is never easy. It has to fall in the right spot, get the right supports, and obtain plenty of water and sunlight. But also has to contend with the winds, storms, floods, and everything else nature throws at it. It might run into a few snags along the way, but it'll still keep growing. It is often the tree that endures the most and is battered about the most that becomes the strongest. He let his words sink in before continuing. You might think that there's nothing left. You might think there's nothing for you after this, but you're wrong. You're upset, but it will pass. And one day you might look back and see that this is the beginning of an even greater stage of your life. One where you don't need to get wings and a horn to prove yourself. Or impress us for that matter. Logically, I knew Dad was right, but it still doesn't make things easier. You said I was a disappointment to you both. I say, Dad hangs his head in shame. Yes I did. But your mother and I, we learned that you weren't a disappointment at all. Heaven only knows it took too long. But we learned to see you for what you really were. Our beautiful, precious little boy who we love more than anything in this world. He breathed deeply. We knew you had a rough time in school. All those birthday parties where no one came. But you have no idea how much we love you. He puts a hoof under my chin, raising it up. Or how much we still do. I've never heard Dad talk like this before, and for a moment, I didn't know what to say. You may think that you're alone, and that you always will be, but you won't. We'll be there, because we're family. And no matter what happens, we love you. Dad hesitates, then slowly leans in and puts his legs around me. It's such an alien gesture that, well, I couldn't remember the last time he did something like this. I feel Mom sit beside me, and then her legs go around me as well. It's a heartfelt gesture, one that's meant to soothe the troubled soul. And while that I wish that his beat breaker instead of my parents, their touch is warm and comforting. It may not be for long, but the darkness inside me seems to grow a little smaller. And it lets me feel good. It gives me the gift of hope. I close my eyes and put my legs around my parents as we embrace each other. None of us speak. There's no need for words. It wasn't long before I noticed a change in the apartment. Or, to be more precise, in myself. Things don't seem quite as foreboding as they once were. When I asked my parents, they have somewhere to go. They refuse to go. Insisting to stay with me for the rest of the day. They even insisted on cooking dinner. We take everything I've left in the cupboards and whip it up into a hodgepodge dinner of noodles, broccoli, oranges, and cheese. It's amusing to toss everything together and witness the birth of a culinary catastrophe. But it's even more fun to bite into the finished result and try to see who can create the longest strand of melted cheese. And for a few hours at least, I'm happy. Eventually the sun goes down, and once we calm down and clean up the sticky remains of dinner, we talk about what we'll be doing with my things. Mom and Dad agree to take my things and keep them in storage. We'll then pay to have them shipped to Camelot after being released. All that's left are what I want to take with me. I settled on 2 sets of clothes I won't wear for another 2 years. A tie to wear for the trip, a few books, and pack them all in the saddlebag. With that settled, all my affairs are in order. All that's left is to wait for dawn. Eventually, the 3 of us tire. I set up the sofa to act as an impromptu bed for my parents, while simultaneously putting blankets and pillows on the biggest chair. I could sleep in my normal bed tonight, but I didn't want to spend the last night of my freedom alone. As I turned out the lights, Mom decided to do something a little special, remembering a little thing she did when I was little and we lost power during a storm. After turning off all the lights, she arranged all my candles around the room, casting warm, dancing flickers upon the walls as we settled in. I relaxed in my chair, watching those lights dance, and wish that this perfect evening can go on forever, and that dawn will never come. But even as I drift off, I know that wouldn't happen. All things, either good or bad, must come to an end. I woke up to a loud knocking at the door. Feeling unusually calm, I glanced at the clock. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, still early enough that it's still dark outside. Trudging to the door, I'm not surprised to find 4 royal guards waiting outside. Without a word, I nod, put on my tie, and gather my saddlebags. As the guards go through them, I wake my parents. Like me, they quickly up and about and gather in their own bags. Once those are inspected as well, we all leave, my parents staying close to me. It's bitterly cold as we exit the apartment building. Luna's armored coach is waiting for us, and we quickly get in. I had wondered if the princess would escort me to the station, and I'm not surprised to see her inside. My parents, having never met royalty, are in awe of being in her presence, much less riding in the royal carriage. Luna politely greets them, and they're so shocked they can't speak for several minutes. The silence is broken when my mom finally launches into a barrage of questions, mostly pleased that I'll be treated well in the Camelot dungeons. Luna assures her I'll be given the same treatment of any other inmates, and not singled out due to my notoriety. Nor she assures her I'll be kept anywhere near Mangus, who will be stored in a deeper, more secure level of the dungeons. It isn't long before we reach the train station, where some more royal guards have set up a barricade, ensuring that there are no threats to the princess as we emerge from the carriage. We'll be riding in an ordinary commuter train to Canterlot. The last 2 cars have been commandeered for Luna and her entourage. As we start towards the train, Luna takes off into the sky, probably heading off to lower the moon. My parents rush inside, wanting to get out of the cold, along with numerous other ponies boarding the wagons further ahead. All giddy at the thought of riding with one of the princesses. But among the excitement and anticipation, I'm the only one who lingers. I turn and look at the city. I didn't have any sentimental attachment to Manhattan, but despite everything that's happened, this is still my home, and I might never come back. The guards fidget a few steps towards me. I watch the towers for a long moment, then step inside the train. It's warm inside the car, and the decor is a perfect fit for royalty. With great sofas, elegant carpeting, crystal chandeliers, and even a fireplace. My parents are delighted to be traveling in such style, and plop down on one of the luxurious sofas. I'm not caught up in the elegance and glamour. This is an elegant train, but I have no delusions about where it's taking me. As the grandfather clock signals the top of the hour, the train jerks and it pulls out of the station. I head to the windows and watch as we head down the tracks. There's only a few more minutes before we're crossing the Manhattan Bridge, which, while half collapsed, is still safe enough to allow passage. We roll onto the mainland, and from here, I have an unparalleled view of Manhattan, which still glows in the last fragments of night. I watched the city as long as I can, musing at the first time I entered it. I was a nobody. Now I leave it as one pony possibly changed it more than anyone else in 100 years. If the CEO is right, and the implants continue to grow and spread, then Manhattan will be remembered as the place where it all began. The train continues on, and Equestria's easternmost city stands tall and proud as it fades into the horizon. It isn't long before Princess Luna flies down and enters the car, her wings folding back as she sits by my parents, who look like giddy teenagers meeting their favorite rock star. They're even more delighted when 2H rolled a cart of food inside, loaded with warm, steaming pastas, cakes, and all manner of foodstuffs. At Luna's invitation, they eagerly help themselves, taking advantage of the once-in-a-lifetime experience of having breakfast with a princess. I didn't join them. It wasn't long before they noticed, and Dad asked if I was hungry. I shake my head and say I just want to be by myself for a while. But as I head to the next cart, Luna motions for me to wait, and pulls a set of saddlebags from a drawer. I recognize them. They're the ones I left at the Metacomp Tower. Luna seems quite insistent that I take them, and I do so, wondering why she would act that way. Stringing the packs over my back, I enter the last cart. It's as regal as the one behind me. I'm out for gatherings and socializing. Coupled with giant windows that provide panoramic views of our surroundings. We're currently traveling through the fields between Manhattan and the surrounding communities, giving the impression that I'm riding through a sea of grass. The sun is starting to rise, its rays creeping over the horizon, and lights the brilliantly clear sky. I take a seat on the closest sofa and lean back, content to enjoy the peace and quiet for several minutes. I may not have many such moments in the years to come, and I want to enjoy it while I can. Eventually, my mind wanders to the saddlebags Luna gave me. I didn't want to let go of this tranquil moment, but curiosity demands I see what's in them. I flip the top open and look inside. There isn't much, just the food and clothes intended for my solitary journey to Camelot. There's no reason to hold on to them. I take the stuff out, amazed that I actually intended to fly from Manhattan to Camelot by myself. It seems like it was a lifetime ago. But as the last clothing scraps come out, I stop. Little Celestia, oh my gosh, I almost forgot about her. She looks up at me, her ever-present smile still there. I look her over, hoping she wasn't damaged. There's a small crack in her side, but other than that, she was nonetheless for wear. Relieved, I pulled her out of the bag. I can let go pretty much everything else, but I wanted to keep little Celestia. She's a reminder of why I got into all this in the first place. And that way she's still good. It's just my methods that... Hold on, what's that? There's something between her legs. A scroll? It's fancy, the parchment crafted from the finest materials. The most curious of all is the wax seal holding it shut, and the royal insignia pressed onto it. A chill goes through me. No, it can't be. Hoof shaking, I break the seal and unroll the scroll. With trembling legs, I began to read. Dear Silverspeak, when my sister and I reviewed your memory, I saw that you wrote a letter to me when you were a little colt, which I never received due to circumstances beyond our control. I hope you forgive me for my late reply. Silverspeak, you may think you're useless, but everyone in Equestria, whether they're an earth pony, a unicorn, or Pegasus, or even another species, like griffins, dragons, and donkeys, are needed to make our world such a beautiful and friendly place to live. The only way they can do that is to be true to themselves and use the gifts they have. You too have such a wonderful gift, and one that can change the world for the better if you use it wisely. You may fear that you'll never find your place in Equestria, but I promise that if you follow what you love, you will find your purpose, even if it turns out to be different than what you expected. But don't forget those who helped you along the way. Your parents, family, and friends. Friendship is Equestria's greatest strength, but it is the love we share that truly makes it beautiful. Despite your mistakes and some of the choices you've made, I've seen that you have a good heart, Silverspeak. When the time comes, I look forward to meeting you, and I hope we can become friends. Sincerely, Princess Celestia. I read the letter again, and then once more. Princess Celestia, she wrote me a letter. I can briefly keep my composure as I clutch the letter to my chest, not wanting to let it go. I don't know how much longer I sat there with the letter, but I didn't care. Princess Celestia herself wrote to me. She took time out of her busy schedule to write a letter specifically for me. I couldn't fathom it. Never in a million years did I imagine the leader of all of Equestria would do such a thing. Eventually, I released the letter for the fear of crumpling it too much. I wanted to hold on to it in the days and months to come, to read it whenever I needed encouragement, and hope to get through the tough times ahead. It's more valuable than the shiniest diamond, and to that end, I carefully fold and place it inside my saddlebag. Just as I finish snapping the buckle down, there's a sound from the next cart. I recognize it as the raised voice of Luna's captain. He's not happy about something, but I could care less. But then I hear Luna's voice as well. Her voice wasn't raised, but it silenced the captain. Then she says something else, and her tone sounds encouraging. But who is she talking to? My parents? Someone? There's movement at the door, the handle turns, and it swings open. Beatbreaker stands in the doorway. For a moment, time goes still, and I can't breathe. Beatbreaker looks at me, and her face is like a mask, revealing neither happiness nor sorrow. Without a word, she walks to the sofa and sits beside me. Thoughts swarm through my mind. How could Beatbreaker be here? I thought she already departed from Manhattan, departs unknown. Or is this a train, and she wants me to apologize before she leaves? Does she just want to see me on my knees, begging for forgiveness? Scarcely able to move, I steal a glimpse at Beatbreaker's face. Through her silence, she now looks conflicted. I turn away, unable to look at her. She probably doesn't want to see me. And why would she? Yes, I saved her life, and she knows I was willing to sacrifice everything for her. But there's the manipulation, the nudging, and using her for my own purposes. How could she ever forgive that? Then it strikes me, I remember reading, once long ago, that Medicomp has a division in Canterlot. Perhaps that's where she was transferring to, and this was her train. She wanted to see the observation car, and Luna let her in, not telling her that I was here. I breathe deeply, my heart pounding. I need to leave, no need to make things any worse by... Something touches my hoof. Oh great, her saddlebag fell over. I moved to push him away, but it wasn't the bag, it was Beatbreaker. She's touching my hoof. What? I look up, Beatbreaker's looking at me. But through the hurt, the uncertainty, and the wariness, there's a longing look on her face, a wanting, a need. For the longest moment, my heart stops. I wanted to pull away, to turn her gaze from mine, but she doesn't. Did Beatbreaker learn I was going to Canterlot, and asked to be transferred there as well? Did she intentionally wait for the specific train before leaving? And did she specifically ask Luna if I was back here? Beatbreaker waits, her hoof on mine. A warmth rises in me, and a sensation I've felt only once before. It was on the bridge when Beatbreaker breathed once more. It was the most beautiful sensation in my life, and I feel it once more. And from the look on her face, she feels it too. My lips quiver as I take Beatbreaker's hoof into my own and squeeze it ever so gently. A moment passes, and Beatbreaker squeezes back, a tear sliding down her cheek. A tear slides down my cheek too. We smile, and the future no longer seems as empty as it once was. Hoof in hoof, Beatbreaker and I sat together beneath the light of the rising sun.